Conor McGregor has finally announced his return date, and it will be June 29th, International Fight Week, against Michael Chandler in the middleweight division. You heard that right, 185 pounds. This is wild because Conor McGregor has never fought at this weight class. Michael Chandler has basically always had a fight in the lightweight division. I think maybe there's one or two in the welterweight division. I could be wrong on that, but the bottom line is Michael Chandler is not used to going up to 185 pounds, but he holds true to his word, right? He said, I want to face McGregor at his biggest and his best, and he didn't let down in that statement, taking this fight at 185 pounds. We do not know at this time if it's going to be UFC 302 or UFC 303. It just depends if they have two pay-per-views in the month of June, which is very possible. Usually in the first 6 months, the UFC will have two pay-per-views in 1 month. Last year was March. This year it could be May or June. So I'm expecting this to be UFC 303, but that remains to be seen. So how do these guys stack up? We're going to get into the full fight prediction later, but the bottom line is they're both solid strikers and will be at 185 pounds. McGregor will be huge. Michael Chandler will be huge, right? These aren't tall guys like 6 foot, so 185 pounds at 5'10" and below is going to be very interesting, to say the least. How does that impact the fight? I don't think it does. I think these are both two guys that are just going to match up well with each other. It doesn't matter if it was at lightweight, welterweight, or middleweight. They're both going to have the same weight opportunity. It's not like McGregor's going up to middleweight to face a middleweight. He's facing a guy that's relatively his size that will move up in bulk in size just like he does. And both guys got 6 months to prepare, so expect them to be at their best. Now, McGregor lands slightly more significant strikes, but not very much. It's going to be very close in significant strikes. The edge here is Chandler's takedown game. He lands over 2 takedowns in the course of 3 rounds. Not if, but this will be a 5-round fight, even though I haven't seen that reported, but it's likely the main event, right? So it's going to be a 5-round fight. Chandler is capable of getting 3 or 4 takedowns in that span. McGregor, average takedown defense, 66%. So that's a little concerning. You know, if McGregor gets taken down by Chandler, and this becomes like a ground and pound type of situation, which Michael Chandler is certainly capable of doing. He's short, low to the ground. If he can't get the finishing kick like he's done before, or the finishing punches, he'll eventually take McGregor to the ground, and that's where the fight will get interesting. But all in all, what is the point of this fight? Right? What is the point? This is like going back 4 or 5 years ago against Donald Cerrone, when McGregor had already missed two years at that time, I believe, since the Khabib fight. Even if he beats Michael Chandler, which is a stretch, okay? But even if he beats Michael Chandler, what does that really do for him? Then he's got to go and wait how long? The UFC will probably make him wait a year because, you know, if you saw the documentary, that's what's going to happen. They're going to wait for the perfect opportunity. They're not looking at McGregor for a title fight unless he wins 2 in a row here. But they're looking at him to fill the void at some point. And the void right now will be June 29th, right? Because all the UFC star power of current fighters are fighting leading up to that. So they're going to be depleted at this point and waiting for guys to take second fights, like the winner of the middleweight title, the winner of other titles like featherweight and things of that nature. Those guys are all going to be off and resting or booking fights later in August, July, September, and beyond. So this fight fits perfectly, and McGregor is a guy that's, I don't want to say being used by the UFC, but again, they're not looking for a title fight. They're looking for a filler, and not only a filler, but a guy that can still sell pay-per-views, and that's what they get with McGregor. And it goes back to the other day when Chael Sonnen was kind of alluding to, does the UFC need McGregor? And of course they need McGregor. I mean, when was the last time they went over 1 million pay-per-view buys? It happens here and there, but not often. And McGregor's got, 8 of the top 10, 9 of the top 10 pay-per-view sales of all time for the UFC. So yeah, the UFC needs this guy. They're going to let him fight, once a year, and they're going to fill him in. And that's the way this thing is going to be. But make no mistake, they're not looking at McGregor for a title fight. Now, they're not going to tell you that, because if he goes in there and beats Michael Chandler, and then he gets a fight with a top prospect in any division and beats them, okay. Now all of a sudden, You still get McGregor for a pay-per-view and then potentially a title fight. So there's always that possibility. But with McGregor getting up there in age, what's he going to be? Is he 35, 36 now? You know, the wait, he doesn't have time to wait, right? This is why you saw him go off a few weeks ago. He doesn't have time to wait. He needs to get in there and get something done right now and start looking towards the next fight. So you remember he beats Donald Cowboy Cerrone uh, after he lost to Floyd Mayweather in boxing. He came back, beat Donald Cerrone in like 40 seconds. Then the UFC made him wait over a year, roughly. Maybe a little shy of that, maybe a little over that, but right around a year before he gets to fight again. And he wanted to fight almost immediately. So the UFC holds back on McGregor, even if he wins, because they're looking for a place to fill him in. Right? Where are we going to be weak, and where can we drop McGregor in and let him get a bunch of pay-per-view sales? Right? We don't want to put him in there with someone else who's going to sell or a big title fight or anything like that. We want to put him in there where we have nothing and fill it. Fill the slot. And better yet, maybe even get 2 pay-per-views in the same month. It also gives other fighters time to rest, right? McGregor and Chandler fight, and they can start to regroup for the months after that, where all these guys that have won the title or defended the title are getting ready for their second defense or their first defense later in the year, because they've already fought at the beginning of the year. So he's like a filler. And listen, you're going to be watching. Let's keep it real. I'm going to be watching. But this isn't really a fight where he's going to get ranked in a division or something, because, you know, it's going to be viewed as the same as Hamza was viewed beating Usman, except Hamza's young and still on the rise. It's hard to rank a guy when you beat a guy from another division. So I beat a welterweight fighter and I get ranked in the middleweight division, even though they were middleweight fights, or, you know, I mean, no one should expect if McGregor beats Chandler for him to be ranked in the middleweight. I mean, that would be ludicrous. So what does this fight really do for McGregor other than sell a bunch of pay-per-views and lets the UFC sell the fact that this guy's back? That's it. Now, you know me. I'm a diehard McGregor fan. So I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be rooting. I'm going to be hoping he wins, and then hope he gets another quick fight within the same year, or else he's going to boxing, right? That's the bottom line. You had big talks between him and Pacquiao. Now Pacquiao's come out as soon as this fight's announced and saying that he's fighting Mayweather. So it seems like Pacquiao's ready to make some money. He's going to fight Mayweather, and then he may fight McGregor after that. And if the UFC wants to keep McGregor, they better get him some fights, and they better keep him active, because seemingly that's what McGregor wants to do. And I will say this. I do like the fact that McGregor's going to fight in the middleweight division, because I think him going down to lightweight is not feasible anymore. Now, we both know the welterweight and middleweight divisions are tough. Going to be very tough for McGregor. And maybe he just looked at the welterweight and said, forget about it. Let me try the middleweight. But the problem is you got guys like Hamza in there. You got the Sean Stricklands, the Dricus du Plessis. He's not going to compete with those guys, as much as I like McGregor. But you know, I got to see him at 185 first. But he's going to have to be even bigger than these guys that are taller and stronger than him for him to even make an impact in that division. So I don't know if this is just a one-off. It probably is. But if McGregor wins, then it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. If he loses, look for him to go into boxing and get another payday. That's just what I think is going to happen. Listen, for now, this is your boy Chris Cross. We're going to be back tomorrow with the podcast with more on this topic. But that's the big announcement today from Conor McGregor.